Hey, Buff Nation, voice of the Buffs, Mark Johnson here. Welcome back to the Buffalo Stampede at home. We've got Yogi Roth from the Pac-12 Network joining us from out there in, is it sunny California right now, or how are we doing out there today?
It is. I got a morning run in along the beach. You can't go on the beach, but you can go alongside it, get some of that air. You know what that's like, the crisp air, at least get some good air in your lungs. So that's how we started off the day here.
Hey, good stuff. We want to get you on to talk a little bit about the draft, which is coming up this weekend. Of course, there are probably maybe three Buffs that might hear their name called over the course of the 3 days of the draft. Also talk about the Pac-12, but I don't think we've talked to you since Carl Durrell came on as the head coach. It's been that odd transition with Mel Tucker jumping ship after 1 year. Now Carl Durrell is on board. I think you know Carl a little bit, so I want to get your perspective on what you think of Carl and the direction of the Colorado program.
Well, I'm excited. I can remember when I was coaching at SC, he was at UCLA, and they beat us in that famed year, right, when we were on our way to possibly a national title. But I always knew that Coach Carroll had great respect for him. When you saw his teams play, the character of the teams were always really impressive, and he always was held in such high regard. You just felt that presence about him, regardless of who you talked to. And then as I grew in the broadcasting world, in my next career, you hear about him in the NFL, and you just kind of track him because you knew him from the Pac-10 days. And right when it happened, I hit up Patrick Laird and asked him specifically about what he was like and what does he think he's going to be like in the NFL. Same thing with Josh Rosen. And they both raved about him, you know, the type of man that he is, the character that he is, you know, when they talk to him off the field. And that to me is such a big part of this thing in college, is developing young men, gaining their trust. And obviously the players in Colorado, they went through, you know, something that you wouldn't imagine on anybody in terms of the timing. And they were all so bought in that Carl Durrell seems like, you know, in a really roundabout way, kind of the perfect fit for what that program needs right now.
Let's get your take on the three guys we expect to hear called from Colorado this week in the NFL draft. Laviska Shenault, Steven Montez, Davion Taylor, who's kind of worked his way in because of his athleticism. Let's start out with Laviska. You think he may be a first-round guy, early second? What's kind of your view with him?
He's a first-round talent. You know, we just had David Shaw on our new podcast, The Pac-12 Perspective, and he talked all about him. And Laviska almost went for 100. He had 8 grabs a year ago against Stanford. And he's obvious when you see how special he is, how dynamic he is. You called all the games, right? You know when he lined up out wide, in the slot, in the backfield as a quarterback / wildcat, you know, running the ball out of the H-back position. And when you see him and meet him, and the guys I've talked to in the NFL, they're all so enamored with how big he is. You know, like he's so thick. He's built like Julio Jones. He has that size to him. And then the good thing is, while he's been injured, there haven't been like the same chronic injury. And I think that, at least from talking to people in those circles, that's major red flag. And for him, it's not as big as it would be for guys that have had consistently the same type of injury throughout their career.
You know, Yogi, you think about the Pac-12, and obviously Justin Herbert's name is the first one we expect to hear called as a quarterback. But Steven Montez is intriguing. He's a little bit of an enigma, isn't he, from the NFL perspective?
Yeah, I talked to Jordan Palmer the other day, Carson's younger brother. He trained Steven Montez. He's also training Joe Burrow, and past years he's trained Sam Darnold, you know, a variety of number one picks. And he was asking me about Steven when it was the season in October and November, is kind of figuring out who you're going to train. And it was very evident. And I think it's the same deal since Steven burst onto the scene against Oregon, you know, 4 years ago. I remember calling that game on our network. His ceiling is incredible. You know, the problem is, you know, can he be consistent within that? Can he be consistent climbing the pocket instead of trying to retreat? And I've talked to a couple quarterback coaches in the league as they've prepared for this draft, and they've all kind of come down to the same thing. It's incredible clay, a lot of natural tools. Can he break some of those habits? And without a pro day, without a lot of the meetings with teams, I think it's going to hurt him a little bit in the draft. But I do think that he, at that position, is the biggest sleeper in this year's NFL draft, because not only his size, but the way that he moves. He's a dramatic playmaker. You've seen him get out of the pocket, make second, third reaction throws. The biggest question for him is, can he really just maintain a pocket presence? And I know that's something he's really worked on, and something he's really worked on preparation for the draft and a subsequent potential pro day. Didn't get a chance to really show that in the field. So teams are going to be drafting off the tape, but whoever gets him, I do think we'll get a huge steal at that position.
You know, then there's Davion Taylor, who's an interesting guy because such an athletic freak. You know, my broadcast partner, Coach Gary Barnett, always says he's got suddenness. He flashes out there. And although he's a little bit raw, he might have an opportunity at the next level, don't you think?
I love him. Like, to me, he's such a classic Seattle Seahawk. And I say that with zero knowledge of who they're going to draft, but knowing Pete and knowing some of these younger coaches in the NFL, you look at the Atlanta Falcons and Dan Quinn, the way that the Niners are drafted, you look at just the sheer athleticism, and he's got no bad habits, right? Very rarely do you get a player, even if when they change positions, that they don't have bad habits. There was a corner a couple years ago at UCLA, very similar. Like in high school, never played that position. All of a sudden, he went there and he became a second-round draft pick. So I look at this young man in the same manner. Didn't play a lot of high school football, well documented with you guys and us at the Pac-12 Network. But when you look at the sheer range that he has, he doesn't make a lot of similar mistakes on tape back-to-back times. So I think a team in a 3-4 defense, he's the perfect guy. He reminds me of Daniel Buchanan. A couple years ago, came out of Washington State, that type of hybrid player. And in the NFL, that's become like a legitimate position. And that's where I think he'll be a real natural fit.
And lastly, how do you gauge the Pac-12 overall from a draft standpoint? I mean, Justin Herbert, who we mentioned, Austin Jackson's going to be a first-round guy, I would think. Brandon Ayuk, maybe. Now, there's a lot of guys going to get called, but is it going to be a deep Pac-12 first-round draft class this year?
I think it's up for debate. I was surprised the other day when I keep talking to quarterback coaches and offensive coordinators in the NFL. They all keep thinking that there's going to be a lot of quarterbacks taken in this first round, including Jacob Eason. So for me, he's another guy with a huge ceiling. For me, a first-round talent guy who he's going to be fringe is going to be Jalen Johnson. I thought he was the best corner in the Pac-12 last year, best corner on the West Coast. Obviously, there's some talent at that position, some depth at that position, coming out of Ohio State and LSU, but his length, he played press man coverage forever. So he'll be a steal if he does fall a little bit later, kind of like Taylor Rapp did a year ago from UW, because I think he'll end up starting wherever he gets selected. But yeah, you're right. The first round, it's got a chance for one guy, two. You look at Herbert and Jackson, and then it could get to 4, maybe 5. But I think this conference will be making a ton of noise in the second round and the third round as we get into day 2 of the draft.
Well, Yogi, it's great to catch up on you. Let's keep our fingers crossed that football is on schedule to get underway in September, okay?
All I wanted to do was come out to spring ball, watch him practice. What's going on at quarterback? I got so many questions for you, so I hope to see you at some point in the fall.
I look forward to it. Yogi Roth from the Pac-12 Network joining us, a little NFL draft breakdown. I'm voice of the Bus, Mark Johnson. Thanks for joining us on the Buffalo Stampede at Home.